All right, today we're jumping into the latest financial results from the airline KLM. And believe me, there's a really fascinating puzzle at the heart of their story this quarter.
So here's the big question, the central puzzle from KLM's latest report. It's a classic case of what people call profitless growth. They had more passengers, they made more money, but their actual profit went down. How does that even happen?
Okay, so let's talk numbers. KLM posted an operating profit of 341 million euros. And for the busiest travel season of the year, that sounds pretty decent, right? But that number really doesn't tell the whole story.
And here's where it gets really interesting. That profit? It's actually a pretty big drop from the same time last year. Even though their revenue climbed to almost 3.6 billion euros, the bottom line shrank by 54 million. That's a 14% slide. So where did all that money go?
Well, to really get what's going on, the best thing to do is look at KLM's partner airline, Air France. You see, they're two sides of the same coin, part of the same company, but their recent stories could not be more different. And that difference really gets to the core of KLM's problem. I mean, just look at the numbers. They really lay it all out. While KLM's profit was falling, Air France's was soaring to almost 800 million euros. And check out those operating margins. That's a super important measure of how profitable a company is. Air France is cruising at a really healthy 14%, while KLM is kind of stuck down at 9.5%. Visually, the difference is just stark. You have Air France taking off while KLM is hitting some serious turbulence. Remember, they're part of the same group, flying similar planes on similar routes. But financially, they are on two completely different flight paths right now. This isn't just a small gap, it's a massive divergence that needs some explaining.
So of course we have to ask why. Why is this happening? Well, the answer isn't really up in the air, it's right on the ground. Specifically at KLM's home base in Amsterdam, where the airline is getting hit with some pretty unique and intense challenges. The airline is dealing with what a lot of sources are calling a perfect storm. And that's a good way to put it, because it's not one single issue. It's this nasty combination of severe cost headwinds that are just relentlessly chewing away at their profits before the planes even leave the gate. Okay, get ready for this number, because it is staggering. 41%. That's the increase in landing and takeoff charges at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport. It is a massive external cost shock that the airline has almost zero control over, but they have to swallow it.
And it's not just that. It's more like a triple whammy. On top of those insane airport fees, KLM is also dealing with a 4% jump in labor costs from new union deals, plus all the extra expenses that come from operational disruptions and strikes. It's just an immense amount of pressure on their bottom line.
So how is KLM fighting back? I mean, they can't exactly control the airport fees, but what they can do is get their own house in order. So let's dig into their game plan for battling these really powerful financial headwinds. The leadership at KLM, they're not just sitting around watching this happen. The CEO, Marjan Rintel, has come out and basically said, look, we have to get this internal improvement plan right, and we have to do it now. The message is loud and clear. Business as usual is just not going to cut it anymore. So what is this plan? Well, they're calling it the Back on Track program, and it's basically a top-to-bottom effort to fundamentally change how the airline works. It's all about making KLM leaner, more efficient, and more competitive, especially in this crazy new high-cost world they're living in. At its core, the whole thing is about simplifying how they work, using technology to get smarter, and cutting out any unnecessary costs. And for an airline where every single minute on the ground and every ounce of weight on the plane matters, these aren't just corporate buzzwords. These are the most direct ways they can pull costs back under control.
Okay, it is super important that we zoom out here for a second, because KLM is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, the Air France-KLM group. And this is where the story actually gets a lot more optimistic, especially if you're an investor.
And when you look at that bigger picture, you see the whole group is actually remarkably stable. The incredible performance from Air France, plus strong results from other parts of the company, like their maintenance division and the low-cost airline Transavia, it all helps to balance out KLM's struggles. These other parts of the business are like a crucial financial buffer. The group's total profit held steady at 1.2 billion euros. That maintenance division, which is kind of like a hidden gem, saw its revenue soar. And get this, the group is sitting on a massive 9.5 billion euro pile of cash. That is a huge cushion, and it gives KLM some much-needed breathing room.
Think of it like a well-diversified stock portfolio, right? When one part is down, another part is up, and it keeps the whole thing flying steady. So while KLM is really struggling with that Amsterdam squeeze, the strength of the Paris hub and these other businesses keeps the whole company on a stable course. So, where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway? Well, that Back on Track program, it's no longer just a nice little improvement plan. It is an absolute necessity for KLM's survival. The next few months are going to be absolutely decisive. The real question is, can they pull it off? Is this plan enough to navigate the storm? Or is that Amsterdam squeeze just too powerful to overcome?